Welcome to this week's Jackson County Board of Commissioners meeting. Your Board of Commissioners, overseeing these dedicated county departments. And now, your county commissioners, working together for the citizens of Jackson County.
I hereby convene the Jackson County Board of Commissioners here December 28, 2011 at 9:30 a.m. at the Jackson County Courthouse Auditorium. Please all rise with me, and we'd like to ask our Community Development Director, Kelly Madding, to lead us in the pledge. Kelly?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first item of business is item 100, request for and discussion of non-agenda items. There's a 5-minute limit. Members of the audience may address any item not on the agenda. State statute prohibits the Board of Commissioners from discussing a principal subject that is not on the agenda, but the Board of Commissioners does listen to your concerns and may ask staff to follow up on any questions you raise. An extension of 5-minute limit may be approved by a majority of the board. With that said, anybody wishing to come speak on our non-agenda items? Please identify yourself and address for the record.
My name is Brad Martinkovich. I live at 1542 Kenyon Street in Medford.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I direct this message to the board, but mostly it is to you, Mr. Skundrick. Knowing you were on the Medford Water Commission, I felt you were the appropriate county representative to contact. The week prior to the Water Board's 21st meeting, December 21st meeting, I sent you an email asking you to attend that meeting. There was going to be a 15-minute presentation dealing with the Klamath Dam removal. As everyone in this valley should know, the Klamath watershed diverts water to our valley for irrigation purposes. If the 4 dams on the Klamath are removed, that diversion surely will be stopped. Our valley was a brown valley till water was brought here from the mountain storage of 4 Mile, Howard Prairie, and Hyatt reservoirs. I never heard back from you, sir, and you didn't show up. The presentation was less than compelling, but the Water Board did decide to have a study session with the Talent Irrigation District about this very matter. Again, I sent you an email telling you about this decision and did not receive a reply. I feel like the boy who cried wolf, or the one running around yelling the sky is falling. The coho salmon is being used as a new spotted owl to make people feel guilty. We can all see what that did to our way of life here in the valley and for what purpose. We could have stopped that fiasco by making the government coordinate with us and our needs, and we can do that now if we lend our support to our neighbors of Northern California. Mr. Skundrick, without trying to single you out, sir, did you get my messages? And if so, why did you not reply? Do you have an interest in the potential loss of over 90,000 acre-feet of irrigation water being diverted to us? I am not even going to go into the health consequences of dam removal. The loss of water is enough, and frankly, that is the issue that most impacts us. I believe that Jackson County and the Medford Water Commission should be actively involved with this issue. I have given you each the same handout given to the Water Board summarizing this issue. I ask that you study it at your leisure and get with the Water Commission and Talent Irrigation District and investigate what will happen to our wine growers, Harry and David's orchards, and all the other ranchers and farmers potentially affected by this government intervention into our affairs. There is a Klamath River Basin Compact between the state of Oregon and California ratified on April 17, 1957, and that, sirs, is the law governing this issue. Unless we keep sitting on our hands and watch the enviro-terrorists strike again at our livelihood and our way of life. They must all coordinate with us unless we stay silent and take it again like the good little lemmings we have come to be.
May I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, what was the name again, please?
Brad Martinkovich.
Should be able to remember that one.
My email, it's hard to forget. My email,
And I apologize as far as the email. I'm pretty good about answering those. I can't give you an answer for that, but I'm going to go back and check my email log. I do want you to know that I follow this the Klamath Dam removal quite closely. Prior to taking office, I also sat on advisory board for Pacific Power. So very much, obviously, it's their dams down there. So I was involved from that standpoint, and then also from the Medford Water Commission as well. So this is something that I've actually, surprisingly, it may surprise you, but I've done quite a bit of reading and studying and following this. I can't give you the answer why I didn't return your email. So about the invitation to Medford's Water Commission meeting. I will follow up on this. Interesting you mentioned this because I just mentioned to Commissioner Smith that I want to follow up with TID as well because I talked to them earlier, but that's been a year ago. So I apologize for not returning your email, but that's
Thank you.
no problem. I just want to bring it to people's attention, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from me again.
Thank you very much for
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anybody wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Moving on, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Item 20.01 is minutes of the meetings, Board of Commissioners work session December 13th, 2011, Board of Commissioners meeting August 17th, November 2nd, November 9th, November 23rd, and December 14th, 2011. Board of Commissioners meeting August 11th, August 18th, August 27th, December 8th, and December 15th, 2011. Item 20.02 is an order appointing Nicole Riley and Kevin Harris to the Ambulance Quality Assurance Committee, order number 275-11. Item number 20.03 is an order appointing Stephen Gamby, Jay Harland, Randall Jones, Monty Mendenhall, William Thorndike, and Steve Vincent to the Economic Development Advisory Committee, order number 276-11. Item number 20.04, an order appointing Susan Wall to the Local Alcoholism and Drug Planning Committee, order number 277-11. Item number 20.05 is an order appointing Gay Howard to the Mental Health Advisory Committee, order number 278-11. Item number 20.06 is an order appointing Jason Foster to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, order number 279-11. Chair will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve this long consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Move to second. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item is item 3000. It's public hearings and oral testimony given during a public hearing shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. And if you have additional information to give beyond the 5-minute limit, you are encouraged to submit it in writing. An extension of the time limit may be approved by a majority of the board. This item is a second reading of the public hearing in the matter of an amendment to the Jackson County Land Development Ordinance, Section 6.2.2, Table 6.2-1, and Section 6.3.1 to allow small animals within the White City Urban Residential, or better known as the WCUR, file number LRP 2011-00007. I hereby open the public hearing. Is there anybody wishing to speak on this issue?
Mr. Chair, first of all,
Danny?
you'd allow me to provide an explanation and
go ahead.
Ryan to provide
sorry,
the admonishments.
Sorry.
This, as you said, is the first reading for this was held on December 14th of 2011. Was held here 9:30 a.m. in the courthouse auditorium. This is the second reading and public hearing, as you said, of an ordinance that approves an amendment to the Jackson County Land Development Ordinance that will allow small farm animals in the White City urban residential zones. The current land development ordinance allows non-intensive agriculture as permitted use in all non-resource zones except within this particular zone, which is the White City urban residential zone. A survey of cities in Jackson County did find that most cities do allow some small farm animals, and typically they don't allow large animals like cows or horses, swine. If adopted, this ordinance will become effective February 27th of 2012, and I do know Ryan's prepared to provide admonishments as well.
Thank you. The purpose of today's hearing is specific. The hearing is for the Board of Commissioners to determine whether the decision is properly documented in the language of this proposed ordinance. Consequently, the only appropriate and relevant testimony or evidence considered in today's hearing will be narrowly focused as to whether the staff prepared the ordinance according to the direction by the Board of Commissioners. Testimony regarding grammatical errors will also be considered. Finally, this is an opportunity for the Commissioners to announce whether they have had any actual or potential conflicts of interest with respect to the matter today. If so, the Commissioners can discuss the nature of the conflict and address how they wish to proceed.
Gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, I have no conflicts.
I have no conflicts.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Outside of having chickens, but I don't live in the White City area, I have no conflicts.
Thank you.
All right. With that said, I hereby open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this issue? Anybody wishing to speak? All right, there being nobody, I close the public hearing. Chair will entertain a motion on the ordinance.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept Board Ordinance 2011-16 as presented.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yes, I will second that. I'm looking for that 16 on my paperwork here.
That's ordinance number. It's right
Okay,
on
it's
there.
over. Oh, there we go. All right, I will second that ordinance. Check it.
Moved and second. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item of business is 40.00, discussion and deliberations. Item 40.01 is an order authorizing a master agreement for licensed software, hardware, and services with Manatron, Inc., order number 280-11. Danny?
Right, Mr. Chair. The Jackson County Assessor's Office, along with the Jackson County IT Department, did extensively research replacement software to provide more accurate, efficient, and timely evaluation of property valuations. Manatron Incorporated is a leader in the market. They were selected to provide their software system based on customer satisfaction, flexibility, functionality, and the ability to meet Jackson County's needs. In this case, the agreement is exempt from competitive bidding per local contract review board rules, section 6A, item 4, sub 6, which is a technology exemption for reference. Cost of the agreement for the software purchase and conversion is $1,312,969. Mr. Chair, if you and the board will recall, I did present this project to the Budget Committee for consideration, as this will be a project that will span over a series of years in terms of implementation. The total projected cost of the project is actually $1.8 million. That included a $200,000 contingency, and the balance from what we're asking you to approve today is actually cost for our IT department, which will be budgeted as part of their budget. So this is only coming to you for the purchase of the software. This agreement is from December 28th, 2011 through December 31st of 2014. Although you're approving the total amount, this amount will be spread out over several years, roughly $700,000 in the current year for both this cost and the IT cost, which will come to you at a future date. It actually won't need to come to you at a future date, but will be part of their budget in the budget process in a future date. It is an expense for this portion of $1,312,969, and I do recommend your approval.
All right, any discussion on the order? This is what we had at our work session the other day, so.
And I do want to confirm this will be replacing ORCATS, which is kind of becoming obsolete.
I wouldn't say it's becoming obsolete. ORCAT's consortium, which consists of 5 other counties in Jackson County currently, is intending on rewriting their software program, basically because it's poor source code and on a poor platform at this point. And regardless of the rewrite, the Jackson County feels this is a better, more thorough program to help us with our assessment department in terms of managing property valuations. And so I wouldn't say it's becoming obsolete, but certainly has some challenges given the issues with platform and source code.
All right. Any questions of the administrator on that issue? All right, Chair will entertain a motion on the order.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve order number 280-11.
I'll second that.
Move to second. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, and fellow board members, I have to leave for a physician's appointment, and I'd like to ask Vice Chair Skundrich to take over the meeting, please.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
if you will excuse me.
Yes. That's noted on the minutes. Thank you. Okay, carrying on, we move to item number 40.02, an order authorizing a research agreement with Southern Oregon University, Board Order 281-11. Danny?
Right. Commissioner Skundrich, in this case, historically, on a comparison basis for other county population, the city of Ashland's had low immunization rates. In 2010, 25% of students in the Ashland public and private school systems didn't have all of the recommended immunizations. Our public health officer, Dr. Jim Shames, who's also our medical director, he serves many roles in the county, created what's called the Ashland Immunization Outreach Team to try to help address the issue of the low immunization rates. In 2010-11 fiscal year, Jackson County did contract with a Mr. John Lang and Richard Whitley in an effort to discover the types of information that might be useful and might be needed by the Ashland community so they make the best informed vaccine-related decisions for their families and for the community in general. At this point, the Ashland Immunization Outreach Team has approached Southern Oregon University to perform research, to organize and compile data, to conduct interviews with Ashland parents concerning their children and vaccinations, and submit reports back to the team. The final report will evaluate the overall effectiveness of the team's efforts to increase vaccination rates. Term of the agreement begins upon the date of last signature by both parties. It would expire June 30th of 2013. In other words, that's a drop-dead date for all of the work to be done, but it's possible it could be done before then as well. It's a financial impact of $10,000. It is budgeted as part of the public health outreach program, and I do recommend your approval.
Thank you. Discussion?
Well, I do want to say a little bit about this. This is really interesting, and I think it'll be really valuable information when we get it. The way I understand it now is if you don't want your children immunized, you have to claim a religious exemption in Ashland. And depending on what the results of this study, there's probably some people out there that are claiming a religious exemption, which really they just don't want their kids to have the immunization because they don't believe in modern medicine. So I think this will give us a lot of important information, that we can just find out, the effects of not immunizing your children.
Yeah, I wish we would have had Dr. Shames come in and to address this issue. I've sat and listened to his presentation in Public Health Advisory Committee meetings. I want to make sure that people understand that this isn't any way we're not impinging on privacy rights to individuals. This will all be confidential, the information that are gathered. Our concern is, quite honestly, since we're responsible for public health here in the county, for the whole county, north, south, east, and west portions of the county, and when a large portion of the population chooses not to immunize, and they're right. I'm not, but the idea of this is to get the information out there. There is some misinformation out there regarding autism and some other issues. And as a parent, as parents ourselves, we understand we want the best for our children, and we want to make the right decisions, but we want the right decisions made on good information that we have. And so I think by SOU doing this, and again, all they're doing is gathering information for reasons for folks don't want to, but not so much that, but to educate that large segment of the population. We're not picking on Ashland by any stretch of the imagination. That just happens to be where the majority of the non-immunized children reside. And again, this is not impinging on privacy rights whatsoever, or forcing them to do one thing other than what's already set up by state statute. That's our intent. So I hope people don't get kind of riled by whether they do or not. But again, this isn't us. This isn't Big Brother or big government pushing something forward. I think it's good. I know as a parent, as a grandparent now, I want to make the best decision based on the best information. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve order number 281-11.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Order so moved and approved. Next item on the agenda is 40.03, an order authorizing an agreement to pay administrative fees and costs in connection with the issuance of an out grant with the United States Department of the Army Corps of Engineers, Order 282-11. Danny.
Yeah, Commissioner Skundrick, Jackson County would like to execute this agreement with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. This is to pay administrative fees, as you said, and costs in connection with the issuance of an out grant for the use of the Elk Creek stockpile site. This is for storing crushed rock and for county road maintenance. Term of the agreement begins upon full execution. It expires upon determination of issuance of the out grant. It's a financial impact of $5,435. It is budgeted as part of the road fund, which is a dedicated fund for purposes such as this, and I do recommend your approval.
Thank you. Discussion?
No.
No discussion. I have nothing, no questions, so I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve order number 282-11.
And I second that. And roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Order so moved and approved. The final item on our agenda is 40.04, an order authorizing the Jackson County Jackson County contract for services with Aramark Correctional Services, LLC, Order 283-11. Danny.
Yes, Commissioner Skundrick. In this case, Jackson County is required to provide food services for inmates at the Jackson County Jail, the Jackson County Transition Center, and the Jackson County Juvenile Detention Center. Jackson County did publish a request for proposals for food services for those three facilities, for inmates in those three facilities. From the respondents, Aramark Correctional Services, LLC was selected to be the provider of food services to all three locations. This actually is a continuation of services that is currently provided to Jackson County for food services by Aramark. This agreement should not exceed $750,000 annually based upon a population of inmates, which we predefine in the contract not to exceed 230 inmates at the Jackson County Jail. These are average numbers of inmates, not high or low numbers of inmates. 140 inmates at the Jackson County Transition Center and 56 inmates in the Juvenile Detention Center. Technically, the term inmate for the Transition Center and Juvenile Detention Center aren't correct, but so that for public purposes, the public would generally consider people inmates. In this case, term of the contract's January 1st of 2012 through December 31st of 2014. There is an option to provide to continue this contract after December 31st of 2014 for additional periods of 12 months each, not to exceed a total of 5 years. That's basically limited by our local contract review board rules, which would require at 5 years we go out for another request for proposal. It's an expense of $750,000 annually. This is budgeted, however, it's budgeted between multiple departments because it serves, we consolidated all of these services to bid them as one unit to get a better price, so it serves both the sheriff's office, which is a separate budget from the community justice budget, and I do recommend your approval.
Thank you, Danny. Discussion.
I have a couple questions just for my own information. The three different places they serve food, is it the same meals, do you think?
Actually, it's typically the same kind of meal. However, there's different levels of quality in food service that's provided. So the juvenile, there's a different calorie requirement and content for juveniles than there is for adults. Also, the juvenile and the transition center meals are typically what's referred to as an upgraded product from the inmate food service. That's typically because both for juveniles, the calorie requirements and content requirements, but also for the adults in the transition center, they actually pay a portion of the cost to be at the transition center, and for the meals that they receive, of course, in jail, they don't pay for it.
And did other people bid on this contract? Do you know?
I believe there was one other submittal, but I don't believe that they're, and I can't remember the name of the submitter.
I was just curious.
Honestly, I think that their submittal didn't meet the requirements for the request for proposal, so while they may have submitted a bid, I don't think they qualified to even be considered.
I see. That's all I had.
Commissioner, I see you've done some arithmetic there. Why don't you tell us how many folks in the total that
Well, it's
were...
total of 426. You know, I added all three of them, 426 total. And that was another question I was curious about. Is that the maximum we have room for? I mean, if we had something, a riot, we had to put another 50 people in?
So I know you're very thorough in computing numbers, Commissioner Rasher. The cost per mill is different for each of the facilities, so it's not an average cost. You would have to take the cost for each of the separate populations. And that reason why that is because some of the mills contain more calories than food and it has a higher cost. The inmates at the Jackson County Jail, I believe that technically, according to the federal court order put upon us, we actually allowed to hold 263 inmates. However, the sheriff set the cap at 230, recently moved the cap to 240. So but that's an arbitrary cap based on the sheriff's ability to run the jail, and so. But this once again I said is the average number of inmates, and so sometimes, not very often really, with the jail do we have vacant beds, but for the other two facilities we do, and so it averages out. In the transition center we actually have 165 beds, I believe. We compute an approximate estimation of 140 beds, and similar issue for juvenile detention.
I guess I wasn't trying to make a point, just to draw attention to the number of incarcerated individuals. And well, incarcerated is not exactly right because the transition center is a little different animal, but the number of beds that the county provides for that particular segment of the population is startling. I don't know if people really recognize that as much. So that was the reason for my question. Anything else, Commissioner? No. Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Skundrick, Mr. Vice Chair, I move we approve Order 283-11.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. With that, that concludes the businesses before us here on the agenda for the 28th of December. I want to wish those present and those that may be watching on the screen live a very happy New Year. May you have good health and happiness through 2012. With that, I adjourn this meeting at 10:50. Thank you.
You've been watching the weekly Jackson County Board of Commissioners meeting, held every Wednesday morning at 9:30. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact the commissioners at 774-6116. You can also visit www.jacksoncounty.org and click on Video and TV Center to view many of the county's latest public meetings, informational videos, and studio programs.